Okay, so welcome to the putting tip for today. Now this is all about setup. Now it's really important that we build a strong foundation. Now why would I say that? Well, if you imagine or if you think about a railway track, there's a very clear reason why they are absolutely parallel from start to finish. You could imagine if one of the tracks was slightly out, what that actually would do to the train. Clearly it's going to derail the train. So they have to be very precise with that setup. Now, it's no different when you're looking at your putting. So it's vital to do with setup that you get certain elements parallel to where you're aiming the putt and where you're looking to hit the putt. So this is a great tip that we're going to run through now, which is something I use a lot. It's a foundational element, but you'll find it very, very helpful. So what you actually want to do, so the first step is actually to be aware that the main problem people have, one of the key points, is that their forearms are not on line or parallel to the hole. So if you notice when I stand up to the putt here, if I'm setting up, well, you'll see that my forearms are about sort of 6 inches inside the ball line, which means in turn, like the railway track, they should run parallel to 6 inches left of the center of the cup. Okay, does that make sense? So if I had my forearms here, and you could see an awful lot of my right forearm, they would be very open, which is the most common mistake. And generally what tends to happen is people's forearms are pointing way over here to the left. Now, when that happens, what happens is the forearms are here. Then what happens, obviously, people then start stroking it way left and don't understand why, because it's just working along the railway track of the forearms. So the key, so this leads up to step number 2. 1, to be aware, and then 2, if you've got a hall room mirror, I'm going to use the camera here, but you can see here, so if I take the ball, you can see here that at the moment you can see a lot of my right forearm. So imagine that you're the mirror now. Now, if I then start to either bring the right forearm in or the left forearm out a little bit, what will happen is that you'll get to a point where you go, okay, now it's gone. Okay, so now I'm square. So when you're doing this in front of the mirror, all you're trying to do is double check that your forearms are square, which means I've now have that parallel railway track line, which is vital for consistency. Okay, so when we get that forearm tucked in, which is how most people tend to do it, they get square. So when you're actually practicing, again, what I would recommend you do is you set up, you look at the mirror, you see your right forearm, you then try and just move it so you get used to the feeling, look up and have a look in the mirror and just double check and go, yeah, okay, that's correct. And gradually you'll get used to what that sensation is. Now, one thing just to leave you with is when you're used to having your forearms pointing way left and stroking it this way, when you then get used to being online, the odds are, yep, you are going to effectively start to push to the right, because when you've been setting up like this for so long, you hit a few to the left and then gradually you start pushing right. But get online, right, to begin with, you may well push it to the right. So don't think that's now the forearms that are at fault. It's just really an old habit due to the alignment of the forearms being out in the first place. So again, a very cool tip. It's a foundational setup tip. I highly recommend that you make that a habit for yourself and a key checkpoint. It will really help you to develop more consistency with your putting. So if you like this tip and you want to hear more about putting or any other aspects of the game, please subscribe and look out for the following tips.